Hi everyone, my name is Jazz Cole. I'm the president and founder of Multilingual and Philanthropic Incorporated, and this is another Empathy Talk. For those of you who are newcomers and this is the first time you're seeing this, is I create these videos mainly to inspire as well as motivate with not only just language learning, but also in the sense of being able to build personal connections with people. The whole point of the organization, I feel like the focus is not just foreign language education, because I'm going to be honest with you, it is great learning a language, it's great having that under your belt, but I think that it's very important to know that language is not just language, it's also connected to people, because we learn these languages because there are people out there that speak it. And I also think about the fact that language is really what connects people, and I feel like it's more motivating to learn a language when you know why, and you know that there are opportunities, there are relationships that you may not be able to have yet, that when it comes to learning another language. So that's pretty much why I do this. And today I really want to talk about imperfections and like the idea that being in situations where you don't know a whole lot, and so having to kind of go off of what you know. I am, as many of you probably have watched or have been following me, is that I do tutoring on the side as well as part of this organization. I tutor primarily French, but I am able to assist with Spanish up to about A2, and then I also can do German up to B1. I can also do Italian, but like mostly like beginner, just because as a person who is an American and I have very limited knowledge of these particular languages, I will say that with French, as much as that is my bread and butter, that is like literally the language that started it all, in terms of me learning more and more languages, is that you have to understand that you're not going to be confident right away. And I think sometimes people drop off because of that, drop off of learning it because of that. And I personally feel like it's a lifestyle. It's not something you study and you're just done. It's not like a class in high school where you study it for like a semester and then you're done. It's not like that. It's a constant lifestyle and it's a constant practice. And sometimes it's like you're going to be in positions where you're just really uncomfortable. For me, I spend a lot of time overthinking things that I really shouldn't be thinking. And not to say that I am not good. Like you said, I can teach up to a certain point, but the thing about it is that my experience is basically limited. Like, I've been learning French since I was 11. Not the same way that a native speaker would be learning their native language in French, but I have limited knowledge. I've been learning German for about 4 years. I would say I've qualified due to testing to take a B1 course. So I'm on my way to basically getting up to the advanced level. I can communicate very well with just some fundamental mistakes here and there. I do teach German. I have taught it. Like I said, I do teach very beginner, because I feel like after you get to B1 and 2, that's when you're ready to be exposed to native speakers. Because I'm here, I tutor and I teach basically in the sense of trying to give people fundamentals so that they're ready for native speakers. Not that you have to be ready to be around native speakers, but it's more like, when you're putting you in a position where you're ready to travel and be around people who may not speak English, to kind of like create that safety net. So like teaching things like grammar, gender rules, just being able to express yourself in that sense of, giving you the basics that you really need. And for me, I think that's even still a process, because I think that the best people to really learn from are native speakers. And like you said, not to discredit my experience and my knowledge, or anyone here who does teach and they may not be a native speaker initially. It is true. And so even for me, I feel like after you get to a certain level, that's when you're ready to start interacting with people. Because I think that for me as a tutor, an American tutor, is that I can only teach you so much. That's the thing. I can teach you so much. But there's not, like, once you get to a certain point, it's like, yeah, you need to be around native speakers. I had a student who, through Preply, she wanted to get some speaking practice, and I got really nervous, not because of the fact that of my skill in French. I was just overthinking it. And sometimes when you get to a point where you're overthinking it to the point where you're thinking about messing up versus actually thinking about what you know in the language and listening to that person. I know yesterday at work, because I work part-time at a grocery store, just until I get ready to leave for Germany next week. And I remember being called up to the front, and I was like, what? I was like, what did I do? They're like, okay, so you speak Spanish, right? And I said, yeah. Like, okay, we're trying to figure out what's happening here. So I am thrown off because I'm like, I wasn't prepared to speak Spanish. I actually thought I was in trouble. I don't know why. I had no reason to be in trouble, but I just, like when people call you up and it's like, what did I do? And it's like, Jazz, you didn't do anything. We're just here to help you, or we're here to, for whatever reason, or it could be something positive. Like I remember someone was trying to tell me something positive, and I was just like, what did I do? I don't know. I think that's like negative thinking I need to kind of like curb back on, but I need to work on. But yeah, so I'm like, okay, I'm thrown off because I'm like, I'm gonna have to speak Spanish. I was not ready. My brain is not prepared for Spanish. Even when I was in Mexico for that whole week that I was there, I got better over time, and it was easier because I was surrounded by it and I was in the mindset of Spanish. And it's kind of like, like acting, like when you have to, take that second to get into character before. It's kind of like how it is for me, where I'm like, okay, I need to like get my mind ready for Spanish. I know in life that doesn't always happen, but it is what it is. And I was just like, because I was like, okay, someone's talking to me in English, telling me what I need to say. And then there's this person in Spanish telling me what they're trying to say. And I'm sitting there thinking, so I'm like, okay, so I was like, okay, Jazz, so just do the best you can. And so I'm listening. It's like, Jazz, just listen to what they're trying to say and tell them. And so I forgot how to say in past tense, because my manager, she was trying to say we didn't know that there were more items that she needed to return, because they were saying there was 4 things on the receipt that they're on the receipt, and they're like, we wanted to return all of these things because we just, I don't know, they just didn't like it. I don't know, I guess, whatever reason. And I was trying to say we didn't know, because they're saying we didn't know there were more items you wanted to return. We can fix it. And I forgot how to say, I was saying no sabemos, which means we don't know. But what I meant to say was, I was trying to say we didn't know. I was like, I forgot how to say past tense, because my Spanish has been kind of rusty because I don't use it as much since I've been focusing more on German. I was just sitting there and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know this word. And I'm like trying to say it. And, and they're just kind of like, but yeah, and I'm like, and they're also speaking kind of fast. So I was like, un poco lento, por favor. I was like, a little bit slower. Like I can't completely fully like understand, because like my brain is trying to keep up. It's not that I don't understand, it's like I'm trying to give my brain time to process what has been said. And so eventually we got it figured out. And so they're like, just tell them we'll take care of it. I was like, okay, we'll just help you over there. We're gonna be able to help you. And my manager afterwards, she's like, thank you so much. We didn't know what we were trying to say. Like we finally got it resolved, but it's like, with what little Spanish I actually was able to muster together at that time, being, as nervous as I was. And then the person at the service desk said to me, Jess, thank you so much. We literally were just trying to figure out what the heck was going on. And so that was like a moment where I felt very confident, because even though I didn't, at the time I was thrown off, I still was able to do what they needed me to do, which was communicate to this person. Then later on, I think someone came up to me and they're asking us like in like, where these two, she was trying to point to these items, and I saw that something that on her paper was in Spanish. And so I was like, Spanish twice in one day. So I said, medicamente. She said, sí. And so I was like, okay, over here. So, and I was telling her where she was looking for a NyQuil and DayQuil. I said, okay, so you can find it here. Okay. And then here's the DayQuil. And she was like very, very happy about it. So I don't know. For me, it was more of not just necessarily just to feel good, but it's like my language skills help someone, and for me, helping people is like a major plus. Being able to help someone figure out, like how to get customer service, how to find their NyQuil and their DayQuil. Yeah, I mean, I think that was a moment where it was just powerful. I feel like sometimes, like, when I overthink things, I complicate it, but it's like when I actually get into the mindset where I'm actually, like, that second time that I encountered someone, it was like, okay, I am confident right now. I remembered more things, and I was able to actually help the person. Because at the end of the day, I think at the end of the day, people just want to be understood. You know, I mean, like, it's frustrating. I can think about the fact that, you know, from an empathetic standpoint, is that it's frustrating when you're trying to tell someone what you want and they can't understand what you're saying. And that's like when it's like, okay, finally someone understands me. Because I think that with, and if any of you follow my radio show with F&F Communications, Can You Translate That? I do talk about the fact that from immigration, like, when you come from that standpoint of having to come from a place where you're trying to build a better life for yourself, because you're trying to get away from all this crazy stuff that's happening back at home, and you're in a new environment. They speak a completely different language, and you're going to have to learn how to figure out how to learn that language while also trying to navigate everyday life. And I feel like that can be very frustrating. So it's always nice when somebody is like, oh, this person, she's American, she doesn't speak a whole lot of Spanish, but she spoke enough Spanish for me to actually be able to get what I needed. And that's like, okay. That's like a major thing. You know, especially for me, like, when I'm saying the wrong word, I'm saying the word in the wrong tense, and they're like trying to say, well, wait, this is what we're trying to say. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You know, it's like, I understand. I just don't know this one word. And I think even then, with, like, even as a tutor, you know, I was just I was just kind of like nervous because, again, I felt like I was going to be inadequate as a teacher or as a tutor. Same general thing, just they teach different things. I feel like with teachers, it's more like people see teachers as someone who teaches a group of people, like a classroom, like teachers as a career in a classroom, which is true. And then a tutor is more like one-on-one assistance in addition to your coursework. And I think that's, you know, those are two legitimate careers. I mean, people do it all the time. There are people who do tutoring for a living, as well as people who do teaching for a living. And, you know, and I think that we kind of have this sense of authority in the sense of the teacher or the tutor is supposed to know everything. They're the end all be all. And that's not true. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know everything. I don't know everything in French. There's certain things that I have to look up. I remember, like, someone was saying, like, you don't know that one word? I'm like, no, I don't. Like, my mom was asking me for her radio station to do a couple of commercials, and she said, I want you to record this in French. And I was like, I have to, like, it was in English, and I had to translate it. I was like, I don't want to do this. I can't do this on the spot because I have to actually process what is in English. And, like, in writing, like, if you're doing any work that involves translation with written text, you have to actually, like, read through what's in English and then be able to translate that into another language in a way that makes sense, because grammar rules are not going to be the same thing. They're not going to be the same thing, you know, or they're not going to be placed, or they're not going to be, like, sequenced the same way grammatically as in English, so to say. And then also having to be able to say that without making mistakes, like without pauses or making mistakes or hesitation, because radio, you have to record it and it has to sound confident. So I was like, Mom, I'm going to need more time on that. And she's like, it's just like 2 sentences. I'm like, 2 sentences that I have to translate, make sure that they make it make sense, Mom, and then say it. I have to probably say it a couple of times, because with radio, like I said, you have to say it correctly and it has to be smooth. It can't be, you know, you have to say it completely. And so I'm like, Mom, this is not something that is gonna just easily happen. You have to just, you have to just say it a couple of times. So there's that. I mean, I think that as educators, or anyone who works in the sense of whether it be in education, or whether it be teaching, tutoring, or administrator, a parent of a student, is that I think you have to teach your kids to be able to learn how to find resources for themselves sometimes. Because one of the things I always tell people about, even a friend of mine who I've been teaching German to, is I'm like, okay, this is some resources you need to use. If there are any words you don't know, use word reference. And I also will have that linked on from our translation tools page, is that I need to have good translation tools, because sometimes there are going to be times where you're going to be like me, where I'm like, what is that one word? And being able to actually go on your phone and actually like look it up and be able to say, okay, that's what it is. And not to mention, I mean, words have different contexts and different meanings to them. So sometimes it's not a guarantee that you may know one word, but it may not make sense to them in a particular context. So that's usually just kind of how I usually will try to frame it. So we don't know, because we're human beings. There's so much more to know, especially as an American who speaks this language as a second language. Like, for example, with French. French is my second language, and I don't know everything. I interact with it on a daily basis. I sometimes learn new words. I watch French TV a lot. Like with my VPN, I watch this reality show. It's called Maman est célèbre, which is basically like a reality show about like influencer moms, or and things like that, because I have like major baby fever. So it's always fun to watch like people parenting their kids and their babies and things like that. So that's fun for me. But I learn new words. I read things, and I find out, like, when I read something through like a different context, I'm like, oh, like that's that. Okay, I'm like, okay, I feel like this word means this, because in the context of the sentence, that's what it sounds like. Even being able to pick up new words, like teaching kids how to have like ways of being able to get, like, even if they don't fully understand sentences, being able to give them resources to actually, or techniques to be able to figure things out for themselves. Because at the end of the day, we're all adults, and we're figuring out, really just figuring it out. Like, even when you're in school, you learn so much. Like, I mean, I went to fashion school, and I learned as much as I could about the fashion industry, about the technology that's being used, about different techniques of pattern making. But then again, industry is going to change, and sometimes you have to figure out how to adjust to it. Just like I know someone who did some work for me. She's located in Toronto, but she's getting ready to study in Paris for her master's. And so, of course, French is not like a native language. I know that she's from the Balkans. I think that's correct. She was born in Serbia, so that's her first language. And then, of course, English, because she's in Toronto. But then, at the same time, also going to a foreign country and having to adjust to that as well. And that is a whole other thing. That's a whole other thing. So she's going to have to mostly, like, at that point, kind of figure it out. When you get there, there's no teaching, prior to. It's like, hey, you got to figure it out. So I hope that kind of helps you, or just kind of gives you something to think about. So I think the main message of this empathy talk is that, again, is that we all don't know things. Like for example, the people at the grocery store, they didn't understand. They don't fully understand English. So that's something that they're having to figure out. This person that I know from Toronto, she's gonna have to figure it out when she goes to Paris, and it's okay. It happens. It's important to learn French, of course, before you go to a foreign country. I think that it's, like, personally, my rule of thumb is I never go anywhere unless I know the language or know some way of being able to communicate in that language. But I mainly feel like it's really, really important to understand that we all don't know. And the fact is that we're all figuring it out. And, I think the better question is that even if you're a student or if you're a parent, is to encourage your kids to ask questions and kind of figure it out together. Because I think with the way that classrooms are structured these days, it's usually about, like, okay, like, I know all the answers. I'm teaching you what I think you should know. But we never really get the chance to flip the tables with the students and say, you're supposed to teach me something. So I want to learn this. How can you help me learn this? And I think that's how educators really are, is we're just helping people figure things out. It's like, I want to learn how to talk about this. How can you help me figure that out? So, and I think it's like, it makes it more collaborative. Students are more engaged when they're learning things that they want to learn. And yeah, overall, learning, it's a lifelong process. You don't stop learning until you die. So I hope this really helps you, and like I said, give you something to think about, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.